Right, in this session we're going to have a look at the Spartacist Uprising. This is found at the beginning of the Germany course, Germany 1918 to 39, the Edexcel Modern World History exam. The Spartacist Uprising is another reason why Germany was difficult to govern between 1918 and 1923, and it comes up in various different ways, but we're going to be looking at the descriptive question. Now let's just remind ourselves of the exam structure then for this particular exam. You have four types of question. You have a source-based question. What can you learn from source A about? And it's looking for inferences. You then have the description question, which I'm going to deal with now. And then you have three questions that ask you to explain something, explain what, explain how, explain why. And then finally you have an essay question, which is a judgment to be made. So the describe question is fairly straightforward. It's 6 marks, and they want to give you the marks. All right, I speak from experience here. I was an examiner for Edexcel, and in terms of that, they want to give you those 6 marks. But there are certain ways to make sure that you get the 6 out of 6, and you have to read the question carefully. But they're going to give you something like the Spartacist Uprising. They could give you, I suppose, the Treaty of Versailles, and they could literally give you anything. Describe the key features of the Reichstag fire. This is not about explaining why something is significant. It is about showing off your knowledge. It's showing off your subject knowledge. So the Spartacist Uprising is a consequence of having a country in turmoil. It's a consequence of the loss of World War I, of the economy tanking after various things like the shortages caused by the British blockade at the end of World War I, and it is about a group of people who believe that there is a better way to run the country, not by turning to nationalism, but by turning to socialism and actually having a communist revolution. So the Spartacist Uprising is another example of the unpopularity of the Weimar Republic. Now this happened in January 1919, so the Weimar Republic was still in its infancy, and there are a lot of things that haven't been discussed yet, such as the Treaty of Versailles. There were other uprisings during this period, but the Spartacist Uprising is all about wanting to emulate the Russian Revolution that happened in 1917 to turn Germany into a communist state. These are the two leaders. You have on the left, obviously, Rosa Luxemburg, and then Karl Liebknecht. These two looked at what had happened in Russia, wanted to emulate it, and they started off in Bavaria trying to make that as socialist as possible. So the key features of the Spartacist Uprising that we really try and remember when we're doing any kind of question on this is that they wanted a communist state. They believed power and wealth should be shared. And if you're not quite sure about the difference between left wing and right wing, then it's easily found with sites like GCSE Bite Size, but it's important that you understand that concept. If you're on the left wing of society, you want your society to be more equal. If you are on the extreme side, you want it to be a communist state, which is what happened in Russia in 1917. So all power and wealth should be shared, which is hardly unsurprising given the stresses that the German economy was under after the loss of World War I. As discussed, their leaders were Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht, and they wanted to overthrow the central government that was found in Berlin and establish Soviets in towns and cities. The idea was that in certain localities, that it would be the workers who would decide how best to run things, which is something that was seen in Russia. The government fled to Weimar and used the Freikorps to put down the Spartacist Uprising. Now the Freikorps are very nasty pieces of work. These are ex-soldiers. They are very, very annoyed, angry, furious, whatever you like, about the loss of World War I. They feel that they've been betrayed by the politicians, the civilian politicians, but they hate communism even more because, of course, they are on the right of politics. They believe in nationalism. They believe that Germany should be strong again, and any opportunity to beat up or kill a communist is good for them. So they helped the Weimar Republic rather uncharacteristically and put down the Spartacist Uprising. Luxemburg and Liebknecht were captured, and they were tortured, and they were executed. Now it's worth putting a little bit of effort into finding out who the Freikorps were. The Freikorps, or the Freikorps, as I say, were ex-soldiers. There are lots of horrible stories about these guys. These are some of the men who would go on and form the SA and later on the SS. Freikorps believe passionately in a strong Germany. Like I said, they feel that they've been betrayed. There's a very famous story of the Freikorps beating to death an 8-year-old boy who dared to laugh at them in Munich as they withdrew from the city after defeating the Spartacus. These guys are not to be trifled with, and they are going to be used later on in the Kapp Putsch, and they're going to be fighting against the Weimar Republic. They are nationalists. They believe in a strong Germany. So the impact of the Spartacist Uprising is quite straightforward. Remember that the communists and many of the working class developed a hatred of the Social Democrat Party, which is of course the Weimar Republic. That is a big problem. And later on, when groups like the Nazis are gathering more support, there's going to be a difficulty in getting left-wing parties to stand against them. The other thing is, going back to our explanation question, which we've looked at before, this makes Germany more difficult to govern during the period. Now, in order to actually gain marks in this, what you want to do is aim for a developed statement. If you just write a simple statement for a question like that, a descriptive question, then you get 1 to 3 marks. You want to write a developed statement, and a developed statement includes specific evidence. An example of this is a simple statement is that. If you get an answer to the question about describe the key features of the Spartacist Uprising, one simple statement might be this: the Spartacist Uprising failed in 1919. Now, you would get a mark for that. You might even get 2 marks for that. You're a particularly generous examiner. But you want to change that into a developed statement by doing something like this. The Spartacus failed in 1919 because the Weimar Republic used the Freikorps to violently put down the uprising. Over 100 people were killed in the fighting, and Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht were executed. The impact of this was That was turned into a little bit of an explanation.